Hello and welcome. The teaching of Islam in America is at the center of a heated debate in the state of Texas, where outraged parents have claimed it is indoctrination. The controversy has highlighted a wider debate about the image of Muslims and Muslim organizations in the USA. Since the attack of 9/11, Muslims in the West have been regarded with increasing suspicion in many circles. On one hand, people are quick to point out that the freedoms the Muslims in America enjoy don't exist in parts of the Islamic world. But on the other, many Muslims have faced acts of hatred and discrimination, and some Islamic organizations have been shut down or come under massive scrutiny. The surge of curiosity about Islam has led many Americans to learn more about the religion and the Arabic language, but some critics say there are Muslim groups who cross the line between education and indoctrination. A recent incident in Texas in the southern United States highlights the challenge. Representatives of the largest Muslim advocacy group in the country, the Council on American Islamic Relations, or CAIR, were invited to Friendswood Junior High School to give a 40-minute presentation on the religion. Parents were outraged, the principal was removed, and the community leaders said that, quote, religious indoctrination had no place in public schools. Well, today we ask, how can there be more awareness about Islam in America without the risk of negative stereotypes? And don't forget, we take your calls on this show, and you can reach us at the numbers at the bottom of your screen. With me for the discussion is Pastor Bob Phillips, who is the senior pastor of the Encourager Church in Houston, Texas, from where he joins us. He's an executive committee member of the Houston Area Pastor Council, which has been vocal in its condemnation of the incident at Friendswood Junior High. And in Washington, D.C. is Ibrahim Hooper, the National Communications Director for the Council on American Islamic Relations, which is CAIR. CAIR aims to increase awareness of Islam and files lawsuits on behalf of victims of hate crimes. Gentlemen, I welcome you to the show.
Thank you.
Ibrahim Hooper, I'd like to start by asking how CAIR has managed to get itself into such a sort of controversial position. How did the organization get invited to do this presentation in Houston?
Well, it was interesting. An incident in the school prompted this whole process. There was a Muslim student who was allegedly assaulted, and the parents believed it was bias related. So they called us, and we're a civil rights group. We went into the school, asked for an investigation, and as part of that process, the school invited representatives of our Houston office to come in and give diversity training, not indoctrination, not even teaching about Islam, but teaching about what Muslims believe so that Muslim students in the school can feel comfortable in that educational environment.
So looking at the situation, the way it's turned out and the controversy that's been generated, do you feel that you're being specifically targeted, or is it a misunderstanding?
What happened is a local radio station, a right-wing talk show host, got a hold of the issue based on not many parents, but like one parent or two parents who complained about the situation, and that snowballed. For people who don't know, we have a very strong right-wing talk radio system here in the United States, and often these kinds of controversies begin on talk radio, and that's what happened in this case. It was blown way out of proportion and went from there.
Well, let's get Pastor Bob Phillips' perspective on this, sir, and just take me through the issues you had with the Friendswood Junior High presentation that was done by CAIR.
Well, actually, I do disagree with Mr. Hooper's explanation of some of the items that he said. I think it's important to point out that there were two kids that were somewhat assaulted. They were stuffed headfirst into a trash can. One of them was Muslim, the other one was not. The school board investigated the situation and determined clearly that it was not a racial motivated attack, nor was it anti-Muslim. We don't at all condone what happened. But I think...
Let me correct the Reverend there a little bit on that situation. The parents believed it was bias motivated, even if that specific incident didn't have a bias component, that the student had been harassed based on his religion in the past.
Well, let's ask Pastor Phillips, what was it with the presentation, sir, that you had an issue with?
Well, okay, let me just correct something else too, so I think we can get the facts straight. First of all, there were many parents that contacted us. It's true that a couple of parents led out contacting other parents. The problem with the presentation, let me just first of all say, that there was no parental notification and it was mandatory. It was a decision of the principal to do this. Originally, the school board had approved an awareness training for the faculty of the school. But then it became something that went to the students. I don't think that it was simply an awareness training. In fact, one of the statements that was made was that, that Allah is the one true God for all human beings. And when you talk about the fact that it was awareness cultural training, I think it's a bit disingenuous, because while that is perhaps true in some of the areas, there were statements made in describing Islam as a religion that would certainly cross the line and be in the religious category.
Well, we've got a couple of callers on the line. We'll flesh out more of this in a moment, but let's get Juma on the line from South Africa. He's been waiting patiently. Juma, your question, please.
Yes, my question is, why is it that the Americans have a feeling that Islam must not be promoted in America? Because, I mean, when we are looking at Islam, we are just looking at as a total submission to the will of God, who is Allah in this respect. So the Americans must not, have that feeling that Islam must not be promoted in America. I mean, Islam is...
Juma, let me get Ibrahim Hooper's perspective on this. First of all, Juma's saying that there's a sense that Islam can't be promoted in America. To what extent is that?
Well, I mean, to a certain extent, it's true that you can't go into a school and proselytize. Muslims can't do it, Christians can't do it, other faiths can't do it, but you can pray in school. Muslims can pray in school, Christians can pray, Jews can pray in school. You can describe cultural aspects of the faith. In social studies, world religion classes, the religious aspects of the faith are explained just as they were in this presentation. And when the presentation said Allah is the God for all people, what we were conveying there is trying to go against the stereotype that somehow Allah is a God for Muslims and different somehow than the God of Christians and Jews. No, Allah, it's just the Arabic word for God.
Let's get Sharyar's on the line from Dubai with a question as well. Go ahead, Sharyar.
Hi, hi Riz. How are you going?
Go ahead, please. Yeah, hi.
Riz, I just want to say one thing, that it's probably collectively from most of us. I'm a born Muslim, and I just want to say one thing about the stereotyping. That well, first I just want to agree with Mr. Hooper, because what he said about America being a very open society. I mean, it's a very tolerant society, and I think it's such a great example where every religion can be practiced without any problem. But at the end of the day, I think largely I would say that the troubles going on these days in the world largely depend upon the fact that how they're perceived, and I would say that somewhat they would stand responsible because the minority, which is always very little, creates that bad impression and the bad image when all people are stereotyped. So it's always the rules, the strict rules, or the problems is always created by the minority, and then the majority suffers as well.
Shiara, let me put this to Pastor Phillips. And actually, I'll also introduce an email that we got from Saad in Bangladesh, because it touches on this issue. And Saad wrote in just saying, American students should be educated about Islam. They don't really know what Islam is. Now, if you take into account that and what Shayar in Dubai said, Pastor Phillips, there is an issue that, I mean, Islam post 9/11 has been a largely misunderstood religion. So irrespective of some of the issues being brought up with the Friendswood presentation, to what extent do you agree there is a need for some of the stereotypes to be countered, some of the negative stereotyping that's creating divisions in society?
Well, I think that's true. I think there's no question that there are stereotypes, and anytime there's such a traumatic event that happens like 9/11, I think with any country it's going to produce suspicions and so on. I think there is a room certainly for dialogue. I think there's room for a cultural awareness. I think there's room for the presentation in schools of world religions. We do not object to that. That's not one of the issues. The issue was that there are laws that we must abide by as Christians, and so must Islam. That's part of the American legal system, and we feel that this very clearly went over the line and violated that. And again, I want to bring out the importance of parental notification and the fact that these students were not notified, but parents were not notified, nor were they given an opportunity for voluntary participation. Now, in answering the question about these the freedoms in America, I would have to say too that one of the objections that we had as pastors was, and I say this respectfully, but was to the fact that care itself came in. We have some great concerns about care. I mean, we could spend the entire program talking about the things that you can find online that our youth department have had. Mr. Hooper himself made a statement that he did not want to at all give the idea that he was not for Islam becoming the dominant religion in America. But he wasn't going to do it through violence, but he was going to do it through education. Now that's his own statement.
I'm going to ask Mr. Hooper to stand by to respond.
It's a misquote, by
All
the
right,
way.
well, I'll get to exactly what you said just after this. We're going to take a very short break, gentlemen, but we'll be back with more on the discussion in just a moment.